Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Stephen and Kori. I'm Stephen
And
and
I'm Kori.
all
Welcome
right,
to Get It Together.
together,
Together.
right? Together.
Yes.
Takes two.
Takes
Hey,
two.
we've been at this for 40 years.
Absolutely. We're proud of it because we
Eh,
mention it every show
Yeah,
because
absolutely. We got to
because
keep saying that.
yeah, because the average marriage doesn't even last 40 years.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yay to us.
Yay to
Yay
us.
to us.
Love it. Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
As relationship gurus, what we like to do is we like to talk about things that most people don't like to talk about. Right?
That's right.
But
That's
people
right.
seem to talk to us about it. So we're
Right.
like, well, we're gonna share it back out to the community.
Well, we have an exciting show because we're kind
We
of
do.
talking about alpha males
And beta females or
or
alpha females.
and beta males.
Yeah. And that
It's a
is
big
a
issue.
huge rub in a household.
Oh, yeah.
What about alpha males and alpha females together?
Oh, my gosh.
Or two betas get nothing done.
No, oh, yeah.
Passive. I don't know. Who's going to lead? I'm not going
Yeah.
to lead. You follow. Yeah. So that is a topic that has come across our desk
Yes.
when we've coached people and when we ministered with people, and it's something that we actually encountered ourselves.
Let's look at this.
Yeah, this is a book that we helped us through the alpha beta situation. It's called Husbands Who Won't Lead, and
Wives who will not follow.
yeah, this book has transformed our marriage
Yeah.
and many others. We've had this for decades. I don't even know when we got this book. It's been years ago. And it is by James Walker. If you can find it, it's great, especially if you need it for your marriage or if you're in ministry with young couples. It's a great book hey, any couples. It's a great book
That's
to
right.
have.
That's right.
Something that we're going to talk about today is the rub on what that means. Is it a bad thing to be a beta?
You know what? No, not necessarily.
No, it's not. It's not.
I do think it's a bad thing to be a beta male.
Mhm.
Males were
Mhm.
designed to be the leaders in the home.
Yeah. One thing that we learned from this book and we learned from the great book, the Bible, is that God has a blueprint for husbands
Yes.
and for wives, and something that husbands cannot be their best without that wife, without
right.
that helper. And a lot of times in our society, helper seems like it's an assistant and it's a weak, it's a passive, it's not an elevated position. But with God, it is an elevated position. It means man
Right.
cannot live without a wife.
Right.
Husbands need a wife. It elevates them and it elevates that wife because there's a purpose to be that beta to the alpha.
Sure.
Otherwise, the alpha is just running around killing stuff. It's like, hello, let's get
Yeah,
this
there
in
has to be a
line.
balance,
This
right?
has to be a balance.
Yeah.
And that helper is in every area, helping in the thoughts and helping in the decisions.
Right. Right. Well, you know what? And talking directly to some of the ladies out here, some of you are alpha females who consistently attract beta males,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
It's by design. And much of it is generational.
Oh,
Because chances are, if you're an alpha female, right, your mom was an alpha female,
mhm.
right?
Yeah. Or your dad was a beta male and you saw your mom sitting there trying to get him to be a beta
Right.
and so you're like, well, I guess there are no alpha males, so I'll just take the role myself because I didn't see it growing up. My dad was a beta.
Right.
So yeah, it's a hard thing to it's a hard position to set down if you are alpha female. It's like, why shouldn't I be? I am woman, hear me roar. We've been waiting for decades to be the leaders.
Oh, that's right.
So
Yeah.
the mentality of that is that you have to take control. Most of the times, an alpha female has to take control because the beta won't.
Now, that's an interesting point. What you just said is very important because you know what, folks, every family needs a leader.
Yeah.
Now, there are some alpha females who have become alpha
Mhm.
females by default because you male are a beta
Mhm.
male and you're not leading.
Yeah, because wives can't be their best
That's right.
without that husband being the leader.
That's right.
Because a wife has a position. God gave a wife a position. And if she can't fulfill that position because she's sitting there waiting for her husband to do what he's supposed to do, it's a struggle.
Exactly.
You're going to hear a story, as we always do every show, about our experience.
She's trying to be an alpha female
Yeah, because I
with
saw
an alpha male.
because I saw alpha female in my household.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I didn't know any different. I was like, of course, this is who I am. This is what a woman's supposed to do. And I was taught that you don't rely on a man for anything
And
because
there's
they'll
a
let
lot
you.
of that that goes on,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and by default, you didn't know.
No,
It's what you saw,
absolutely. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But what if I was able to just lay down and not take my role as alpha
Well,
male?
we went through that where you were like, no, I'm not. We got in major arguments
Yeah.
because I was trying to tell him what he was supposed to do. Meanwhile, I didn't see a husband in my household that did those things, but saw a
Well,
wife.
and we should explain to, some of the audience may not be aware that you grew up in a broken home as well.
Well, my mom remarried when I was 12.
Right.
So yeah. So and when she remarried when I was 12, I had already had at 12, you already know what you want to do. You think you know what you want to do. You have the attitude. And so I was an aggressive young girl.
But your family has a history though of alpha females.
Females. Oh, yeah. But again, let's go back to we're talking about me, but we're going to talk about the main topic of this alpha and
Well, the
beta.
thing is, guys, if you don't lead, it will create a vacuum. So
Mhm.
essentially, what I'm saying is, if the guy is a beta male,
Yeah.
it will create a vacuum.
Mhm.
And the blessing is in many households, thank God there is a woman that will step up and take that alpha
Mhm.
role.
Mhm.
Not that it's right. The issue is that somebody has to lead.
Yeah. We have had people that we have coached couples, and the wife has said, "I don't want to be the alpha. I don't want, but I can't get him to become the alpha." And there are some couples who have been married a couple of times,
Right.
and the wife keeps choosing a beta because it's a common thing. It's a comfortable thing. It's a, well, I'll just do it anyway. So how do you break from that? If you want to break from it,
Now, hold on. That's a great question. Ladies and gentlemen, say that again. What you just, how do
how
you
do you
break?
break from that if you want to break from that?
Right.
Because a lot of times women will say, I just want a man who's going to be a man, but yet they're not looking for a man who's going to be a man. They're looking for a man who's a beta,
Right.
who will
Right.
just, okay, honey, whatever, I just want to make you happy. And then they just, spit on him pretty much like,
Yeah.
you're a wuss.
I have to
You know?
tell you though, as an alpha male myself, I really have an issue, honestly, with beta males. One of the things I have an issue with is the feminization of males.
What does bother me is when men and women wear the same jeans. It's like,
Oh, come
"Oh, I can
on.
wear my husband's jeans." It's like, "Why would you want to? Why would you want to wear your boyfriend or your husband's jeans?" And why would a man say, "Yeah, me and my wife wear the same clothes?" That's weird to me. Now, I know you guys are watching and you might say, "No, I like it." Tell us why you like it. Tell
Yeah.
us why you want to be equal in your wardrobe with your spouse. So, that's one thing.
Well,
Go ahead.
again, I wanted to say the prevailing question here, though, is in these households around the world.
Mhm.
Okay, are the wives stepping up because the husband is not? Ladies and gentlemen, if you are seeing this episode, we would love to hear from you in this. Have you stepped up because you know that your husband hasn't? And husbands, have you not stepped up because you wanted her to step up? That's
Now, you
good,
do have
encouraging.
some men who believe that their worth comes from money or status, and they don't even think about the household. They don't even think about their wives. They just are running for the business, and they're beta at home and alpha in business.
Right,
As soon
right.
as they get
That's good.
home, they're like, I don't want to. I don't want to control anything. I don't want to be responsible for anything. So I'll let my wife do it. God bless those wives because if they're working too, they got to be out there, hunting and gathering, and then coming home and taking over.
Right.
So you get that confusion, that masculine confusion, which a wife can manipulate.
I was going to say, aren't there some situations though where you think the wife actually has become very manipulative, which actually sometimes emasculates the male,
Oh yeah, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Now that's not cool.
No, no, no. There's something called a Jezebel spirit.
Yes, yes, say
And if
that.
you
That's
guys
good.
understand biblical
Jezebel spirit.
stories, Jezebel in the Bible was manipulative, and she ran Ahab. I
Right.
mean, he was scared of her.
This is an
She
excellent
ran
example.
armies for all of Ahab's. He was a king, and she ran his armies. And she
Jeez.
told the spies to go out and get the prophets and all those things because Ahab was too afraid to do it. And there's certain
Wimp.
and these agents that they had that Ahab
It's
had
a tongue twister.
would listen to Jezebel way more than Ahab. They're like,
Yeah,
Jezebel's in charge.
yeah.
And there's something called a Jezebel spirit. And I had that. We'll talk about that in a moment. And you don't realize when you're doing the things that you're doing,
That's
you
good.
just speak from an in charge kind of it really comes from insecurity.
Yeah.
You're fearful of something happening that you're not in control of.
Right.
Comes from control, and Jezebel was always in control.
Yeah.
And to lay that down is really difficult. I mean, I actually had to go into some prayer and fasting to get rid of that because I didn't want that in our marriage. And he didn't want that. And, that caused huge fights. So if you have that Jezebel spirit, which is the battle for control, when do you know who's in control?
Right. Again, it's almost like that Jezebel takes control by default,
Mhm.
because sometimes I think the male doesn't even realize that's what's happening. Okay.
Mhm.
So, you've heard people joke about these kind of things and say, well, who wears the pants in that family? Or we know who wears the pants in
Mhm.
that family,
Mhm. Yeah.
just because of how the female asserts
Yeah.
herself in that family.
And the bottom line is you want a happy, fulfilled marriage. No one goes into marriage saying, I don't want to be happy or fulfilled. No one goes into marriage saying, I'm going to tear up my husband or I'm going to tear up my wife or I'm going to make my wife be responsible for everything because I don't want to do anything. But it just happens that way if you allow it, if you're not very much aware. I'm going to open up this book for a moment and I'm just going to read here um, God's blueprint in you and me. In Genesis
That's
2,
good.
God fashions a man in our Lord's own estimation. It is not good for the man to be alone. Genesis 2:18. It was Adam's solitary condition that prompted God to make a helper suitable for him. To many women today, the term helper is thought to be demeaning. How can someone be a helper and be an equal in function and value? No, the word helper in the Bible, I have it right here, actually means uplifter, elevated position. Without the helper, he is lost. And
That's right.
so when you look at scripture, realize it's not the English words, it's, Hebrew, Arabic, Old Greek, and the definitions are totally different. They mean totally different things now than what we look at. So to be a helper for in that marriage is huge. A man can't function without a helper. That's an advisor, a counselor. I mean, there are many times, and again, we'll go into our story where I am helping Stephen.
Right. Sure, absolutely.
Mhm.
So we're going to get into some stats and
Yeah.
facts, or listen to a little bit of this by the numbers.
Mhm.
The definition, according to the alpha male and female,
Mhm.
according to Oxford Dictionary, the dominant male or female animal in a particular group, a man slash female tending to assume a dominant or dominating role in social or professional situations. That is the alpha.
Mhm.
That is the alpha. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, think about that in your relationship, in your marriage. Which one of you is the dominating person?
Yeah.
Which one of you is the dominating person? Next, go ahead and read that one.
A beta male, female, a subordinate male female animal in a particular group, a male female tending to assume a passive or subservient role in social or professional situations. Now, again, remember I just told you that that is the nowadays definition of a beta. Biblically, it is a helper. So
Mhm.
when people see this subordinate male tending to assume a passive or subservient role in social, they think I'm lesser, I'm passive, I'm not as good.
Right,
And in reality, the beta biblically is how we're supposed to see that is the support, the
right.
helper, their encourager, the uplifter, the reason, the logic.
Yeah,
Think about that, the logic,
powerful.
because alphas go out and they run over things and you got to have right? They charge and you got to have that beta female, that helper saying, honey, let's just think about this. And that's the beauty of the
Almost like
marriage.
the beta has the bridle. It's like when you think
Yeah.
of that beta, think
Yes.
of the bridle into a wild stallion,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
That beta is just sitting back there, pulling on those and
Yes.
sort of directing, right?
Yes.
So it's a
Yes.
powerful thing. Beta has
Absolutely.
actually a lot of control.
A lot of control. Yeah. And the alpha wants
Yeah.
the alpha husband wants his beta wife to do that because uh, the sensitivity and the intuition of a woman is a lot stronger in a lot of cases than a man. And so if you can pull on that intuition and that sensitivity and say, this is where we're going, this is, like you said, the bridle.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
According to the Encyclopedia of Person, here we go. Inside another, According to the Encyclopedia of Personality and Individual Differences, didn't know that was one of those.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you know there was an encyclopedia on that?
Higher levels of agreeableness and conscientiousness tend to go along with higher relationship satisfaction. So when you're more satisfied in your relationship, you agree more, you're more conscientious of each other. That's a great thing.
Yeah,
That says we know our positions and we're okay with that. We're
right.
happy, we're content in our positions. Scientifically, the alpha is in relation to other male or female members of the group, alpha male in the male group. So, scientifically, the alpha is in relation to the other male or female. So, when somebody says alpha, you have to say in relationship to what? You can't just say I'm an alpha male or I'm alpha female. In relationship
Right.
to
That's good.
what?
That's good.
You can have alpha kids who are way over their beta siblings,
Yeah. So, Psychology Today, you didn't read that one, right?
Mm-mm,
So,
mm-mm.
Psychology Today says that the beta female has less need for control and less interest in leadership
Which is a great thing.
because they know they're powerful.
Yeah. You don't That's perfect. They
Yeah,
know they're powerful.
yeah, they
I
get
don't
it.
need to lead. I don't need the control. I know who I am.
Yeah,
That's the power
yeah.
of that. I love that.
And because the worldview sees this different, though.
Yeah. Weak,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
useless.
Right, right.
Yeah. I know who I am. I don't need to be in control and I don't need to lead in order to make a difference. Yeah.
It's interesting because I know several. I don't even want to go down this path because I think it could create some issues. But I do want to say that I do know females out there that have become very uber successful, like in the
Hmm.
business and their careers, and they know they're alpha, and they basically don't want to ever be beta
Hmm.
female.
Hmm.
What do you? How do you speak to
I think
that?
again,
Because
that's a
that's it,
control thing. And
yeah,
well, think about this. If you're in the work industry and you keep getting accolades for being a leader and being that alpha, you want the accolades. You want the recognition. You want the awards. You want the status. You want the money. So
but
you
that's
just
just
push.
one dimension, though. What
But
about
if it's fulfilling that one dimension, maybe they don't want the relationship, or maybe they're happy being an alpha all the time and they're looking for those beta males. And
yeah,
guess what? Those beta males are looking for an alpha female.
yeah,
They don't want a beta female. Well, some of them may, but that's what they're looking for. Okay,
sure,
last stat. Beta women, here we go, tend to listen and support as well as use their knowledge and wisdom in situations that the alpha male can't recognize or envision. They are the adversary counsel that betas need for support. I
wow,
love that.
that's excellent,
Beta women tend to listen
excellent.
and support as well as use their knowledge and wisdom in situations that the alpha male can't recognize or envision. They are the advisory council that betas need for support,
How
that
about that?
alphas need for support.
Wow, that's good.
The advisory council.
Sure,
That's a high level. That's
high
why God
level.
said man needs a woman. Oh my goodness, look at this guy. Look at Adam running all over the place.
Yeah,
Give him somebody that has some advisory counsel, that
yeah,
has some wisdom. I'm going to put wisdom in her as soon as she's created, like
right,
she doesn't have to grow old for wisdom. So think of that. What an honor, what a mantle to be able to know that God created women to be that helpmate. And help means advisory counsel, support, knowledge, and wisdom in situations that the alpha man can't even envision.
right, exactly.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about us.
Yes, we're going to talk a little bit about us because, again, part of the challenge that we faced was, early on in our marriage, Corey was operating like that Jezebel and that
Mhm.
alpha female, actually without the knowledge that that's what she was actually doing.
Mhm.
She didn't know you didn't
Yeah.
know that's
No.
what you were doing
Yeah.
until you learned.
Well, I was always taught to be an independent woman, and that's great. But being an independent woman definitely causes you to feel like you don't need a man. And so, or if you have a man, it's not really necessary because you're so independent, you need no one. And there's a difference between being independent, meaning self-sufficient, and independent, meaning I need nobody,
Right.
so, or I don't need anybody. But one thing that I did learn as I was coming through that release of that Jezebel spirit is that the man is the head of the house, the husband is the head of the house, and the wife is the neck. And guess what? I can turn that head any way I want to if I use wisdom and counsel, just like we just read about, we just told you about. If I do that, I am using it for the benefit of the husband. So yeah, I may be the neck, but the neck turns the
Oh,
head.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's a win-win, right?
Sure.
I'm not trying to be the head. I'm good being the neck. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It's just like our creator has set a standard, you know, in terms of how things actually should be.
Yeah.
And by the way, when it talks about as an alpha male, it doesn't mean that you're some domineering jerk. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
that you're some dictator.
Yeah.
It's beyond that. In
Mhm.
fact, the real model for how you should lead your family as an alpha male, if you believe in the Bible, which we do,
Mhm.
you would go back to, I believe it's in Galatians chapter
Mhm.
5.
Mhm.
It's verse 22 and 23. It talks about how you lead. I
Mhm.
want to just read that real quick.
Mhm.
So it's Galatians 5:22. It says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness." And then verse 23 says, "gentleness and self control."
Mhm.
If you're an alpha male and you're leading this way, I don't know one alpha female that would not back down,
Mhm.
right? In
Mhm.
common sense
Mhm.
and take her place as the
Mhm.
beta female,
Yeah.
and roll with that and reciprocate.
Yeah.
That's the
Yes.
key.
Reciprocate. True. True.
Imagine the harmony
Yes.
in a home where you have an alpha male leading
Right.
from this spirit,
Yeah.
okay, and this candor,
Mhm.
and his beta female wife
Mhm.
with the power that she has embedded, and also reciprocating this and then giving that message to your kids.
Yeah. The one thing that I noticed as a kid with my stepfather is he was an alpha male.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of fights. There was a lot of arguing. And I mean, when they got along, they got along. Don't get me wrong. I saw more getting along than not getting along, only because eventually he would just back down and say, fine. But when he
Oh, why
did,
did he back down?
because he was tired of fighting.
Wow.
It wasn't that he
Don't
was
give up,
it
you
wasn't that he
males.
was a beta. He was just tired of arguing.
Yeah.
Uh, but I saw him try to be the be the alpha, and at times it was fine. I can remember my mother, there were certain things that were fine. You can be the alpha, but not in everything,
Right.
and so you have that too. We see that a lot in marriages where I will let you be the alpha here but not here, because I want to take control here, and that could be very a lot of friction there.
I'm happy to say, as it relates to us personally, that I've led as an alpha male
Mhm.
from this position of the scripture here
Mhm.
in Galatians. And my father was definitely the alpha male in our family. And I
Mhm.
think that's because that's one of the reasons why I reflect that.
Mhm.
Now, there were some areas in our family as kids where my mom stepped up
Mhm.
to be that alpha female in certain areas where my father, for whatever reason, wasn't leading. It's not that she wanted to, but she took that role
Right.
while he was not present to take that role.
Mhm.
So,
How did that how did that make you feel watching that?
I think for me, I recognized that there were some voids, and I sort of said to myself, someday I'm actually going to do better than that.
Mhm.
So, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, imagine the harmony in your home if if the alpha male was the leader and the beta female was the recipient and of these fruits. I mean, actually was able to receive these fruits that this alpha is
The fruits
handing
of the
over, the
spirit.
fruits
Yeah.
of the spirit. I mean, imagine the harmony there. And
And that's
I
how
can
it's
tell you,
supposed to be.
I can tell you, we finally found that.
Yes.
But it was a struggle.
Right. And
We,
we led, again, I led from an angle of peace in our home,
hmm
to the point that even our daughters now, we would not allow our daughters to fight and have
Yeah, yeah,
disagreements.
yeah.
It had to be peaceable.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe they disagreed, but it was a peaceable
hmm
disagreement.
hmm
And that comes from leadership.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
So true. Thank you for being that. Thank you for putting up with me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, but when you don't know, you
You
don't
don't
know.
know.
Again, once
Absolutely.
another thing, and I know that I'm not the only one out there. I know I sound like I was just a wreck when you married me.
Yeah, no.
We
No.
got to talk about bad stories on him. But again, we're real. This is really what has happened. I mean, I actually went through that process. And it's interesting because I can identify it
Right.
because it was me. And when I see that, I'm like, ooh, I see that Jezebel right there. I see that controlling spirit right there. And I see those passive men. and the aggressive women, husbands, aggressive wives and passive husbands. And I just cringe because I know how she's feeling. Well, I think I know it's an insecurity, it's a domineering, it's a, I can only do the right thing.
Well,
So,
let's face it, folks. There's a tremendous amount of things coming against families and
mhm,
couples and marriages.
mhm.
This is one of them that's huge,
Yeah, that's true.
right?
That's true.
So,
Well, we've got our section of Q&A in our box here, so we're going to get to that. I'm going to put my highlighter over here and let's dig in and
yes.
see what we have for
What kind
questions.
of questions have you guys sent in to
You
us?
know,
You're going to hear them right now.
our focus groups, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to answer these questions. I don't want to, because this is live, guys. I mean, we're not
Yeah.
pretending we know any of this stuff. So, okay, here we go.
It's 40 years of learning. That's what
Yeah,
we have
and
for you.
again, we've told you we don't know it all. Okay, is it possible for us both to take the lead in different areas? You just
Okay.
talked about, or am I supposed to just let my husband take the lead all the time? You can answer that.
You know what? The alpha male is his duty to lead. It is his duty to lead, but that doesn't mean that there should be a lack of collaboration between the two of you. Okay.
Yeah.
So collaborative leading, I think, is good in some areas where it's necessary. And you may have strengths. You might be able to advise and,
Mhm.
and give direction, that kind of thing, and give input. But
Yeah.
ultimately, if you really want to do it the right way, allow him to make that final
Yeah.
decision with your input. That's how I
And
feel
I think
about
it
it.
depends on what is the take the lead in different areas. So here's something. I took the lead in when it was time to go shopping for kids' clothes.
Right.
I knew the budget and I took the lead in that, or I took the lead in the household things because that was my area of expertise.
Right.
We took I think you took the lead as far as what classes at church we were going to take when we would take church classes and things like that because you were the head of the house, the
Sure.
spiritual
Yeah.
head. So it depends on what that lead looks like. If it is something that is in your wheelhouse and it does not interrupt or de-edify your husband and put him in a position of why doesn't he know that, then make sure your husband feels responsible and
It's good.
needed and edified and uplifted.
Mhm.
Even if you, like you said, with your mom and your dad, even if I'm sure your mom would never de-edify your father,
No,
so
no.
she had to take the lead, but she didn't say,
She only took a lead because there was a void in his leadership. That's
yeah,
all.
yeah. So if
Yeah.
that's the case, take it. But as you're taking it, I think you should also edify your spouse, your husband, and telling him how he could be in this position.
Right.
I see you doing this someday, honey. I know that
Absolutely.
you have the capabilities of doing this. I'm doing this. What would you do if you were in my position?
Sure.
That kind of
Absolutely.
thing. You want to get
What
the
else you
next one?
got?
Oh,
Yeah.
me? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Why don't you take it?
All right. I'll take the next one. Let's see. Uh, no, you read the next one.
Okay.
I'll pull it out, but you read the next one.
All right. My wife oversteps me in public sometimes. Big mistake. How do I address that in public without disrespecting my wife? I'm going to read this one again. My wife oversteps me in public sometimes. How do I address that in the public without disrespecting my life? Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, please respond to that. Type your message how you would handle it. But here's how I think it should be handled. I think that the next time your wife does this, I would not correct her in public, but I would specifically address this the moment the two of you are separate and away out of public. You mention what happened and how it should be handled,
Mhm.
right? And then if it happens again in public, I would call her out on it right in public at the moment that it happens.
You've done that to me before.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
I'm
what
like,
it
what do you
takes.
when you would correct me, and I say correct because it was a correction. In private, I'm like, what are you talking about? It's no big deal. And the next time I did it, it was like he'd say, hey, we don't need that, or just 2 or 3 words. But I
Or
was
I'd
like,
say
oh,
something like I've often shared with my wife that that's a very respectful thing to say that she just said. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Tell the truth, shame the
that's
devil.
very disrespectful.
Very disrespectful,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they sit there stunned, but
Yeah.
it is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But it stops.
But
It
it
corrected
stops.
it.
It does. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm not going to,
Yeah.
because you have to put yourself in a position of being the alpha and
Yeah,
saying,
come
I can
on.
only draw the line so far without you stepping over it constantly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what else we got. Oh, okay. All right. Here we go.
What we got? I love
I've
this.
picked up a lot of I've picked up a lot of habits and hobbies that my partner has, but I feel like I'm losing myself. How can I preserve who I am without disappearing into my partner? That's really good.
Yeah,
Okay, so I've picked up a lot of habits and hobbies that my partner has. That's not a beta or alpha. That's habits and hobbies. So if you feel like you're losing yourself, then get back to your habits and hobbies that you like.
that's right.
It's not a You're not disrespecting your spouse just because you're not being their twin. You
Right.
know, he said so many times, we are polar opposites, not bipolar, but we're polar opposites, you know? So you can preserve who you are without disappearing into your spouse by continuing to be who you are.
Yes,
Your
saying that.
habits,
That's
your
good.
hobbies, whatever it is that you enjoy, continue to do that.
That's
That's
good.
what attracted your spouse to you to begin with.
Mhm.
So why would you say, well, let me morph into him or let me morph into her? Don't do that.
Right.
Continue to be
Be
who you
yourself.
are and have your time. It's so important I mean, I get my time, you get your time.
Right.
And when we come back together, we're so refreshed. We're
Absolutely.
better for it.
Sure.
So I don't expect you to do what I do. It would be kind of weird. You're doing everything I do. Why are you following me everywhere? Do you want to do everything I do? So yeah, I think that you are in the right direction if you feel uncomfortable with that because you should. You should
Right.
always be you. Okay, I'm gonna get you another one. Let's see. Oh, this is the last one. You can read the last one.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
My partner tends to make big decisions without including me. I can follow, but am I wrong to expect to make decisions together? No, you're not.
Mm-mm.
No, you're not. This is actually, I think this is disrespectful
Yeah.
in a marriage.
Big
If
decisions.
it's a
Absolutely.
When you're saying big decisions, we're assuming it's a big decision. There's a financial, decisions to be
Or
made here,
emotional.
or emotional
Hmm.
decisions. Good point.
Hmm.
Uh, you guys should be able to come together and talk it out, and then come to a decision so that is fair and equitable
Hmm.
for both of you. So there's shared interest in the risk, if there's a risk issue here, what have you. So no, you are not wrong. It is absolutely my opinion that you guys should make big decisions together. Now, he may make the final decision, which is fine, but you should also agree to say, hey, it's
So
your final decision.
how do they bring that up to the spouse, to the partner?
I would suggest that you just let them know that you feel like you should be involved in it. And to me, I think it's respectful for you to be involved. That's how we actually have done it.
Hmm. Hmm.
What do you think?
No, yeah, I agree. But and when you're doing that, here's the thing: you've got to get in a right position. And again, beta females, if it's a female that's being challenged with this, make sure that you use your wisdom, your knowledge, use your edifying, use your support, all those things. And if you know the scripture, think about Esther. She didn't just run into the king. She made
That's right.
sure that she prepared everything in her favor.
That's good.
So if you're going to come and speak to your husband about him not edifying you and all those things or making
That's
major
good.
decisions, set the stage so that you're ready to win. You know, don't just
Excellent.
come in and say, "Hey, I want to talk to you," but it might not be the right time. Stephen spoke about, I can't remember, I think it was the first episode where he said, you know, guys, you don't talk to your wife at certain times of the month. You just don't. You don't bring it up because it's never going to make any sense to her when she's going through her certain time of the month. So, well, same thing with the alpha male. When they're in the mode of, attack, or whatever it is, you have to realize when is the best time for me to bring this
Use
up.
wisdom.
Yeah, use wisdom. How do I set the stage so I can actually have a discussion that he's going to listen to?
Sure.
So,
This is really, frankly, a very exciting topic. And
mhm.
there's a lot going on culturally, globally,
Yeah, culturally.
regarding these issues, a
Mhm.
lot going on.
Yeah,
And so, what we would suggest to you is, again, come back to our tagline of getting it
together.
together,
Yeah.
together. You
Yes.
need to have conversations around this, and nothing is off limits. Nothing is
Mm-mm,
off the table.
mm-mm.
And if you have found yourself being a beta male, and which has forced your wife to become, or your spouse to become, a alpha female by default, you guys should talk about that and try
Mhm.
to get yourself back in alignment with where
Yeah.
it really needs to be. So
There's
we
there's
are
ways to do that too. You can hang out with other alpha males, you know,
absolutely
get some knowledge
get some
and
knowledge.
some experience.
Yep, yep,
Mimic, copy, get in line with someone who is an alpha male
sure,
so that you can say, "Hey, I want to be more like this." And that's
exactly.
okay. That's called mentoring, that's called discipleship. It's what should be happening for men all the time. They should be pouring into each other to help them elevate themselves. And same with
Exactly.
the females. If you're an alpha female and you're like, how come I can't find a alpha male? Hang out with beta females and you'll find out.
Right.
You'll find out how did you get your alpha male? This is what you need to do to correct that. So it's all a matter of joining into a group of people that you want to emulate
Sure.
and that you want to get the benefits from.
Sure,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, you know what? None of these things are simple. There's no one answer to any of these things, but they're all very
Yeah.
real.
So we
So,
want you to put your answers in the comment
yeah,
section too. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Again, remember to comment, like,
yeah.
share,
Yes.
and we look forward to being with you next week.
Yeah.
So until next week,
Get it together together.
get it together together. Take care.
Take care.
Bye now.